with racing, then you'll love the new betting brand for racing fans. With exclusive markets, promotions, insights and content. That's betr. Gamble responsibly.
Hello and thanks for joining us on Punters Inside Run. It is the Melbourne Cup Special. Great to have your company as always. I'm Matthew Campbell. Joining me is Mick Sharkie. Shark, before we get on to what is always a great day, Melbourne Cup Day, how was your Derby day?
It was all right, Matty. It was one of those things where, missed it by that much. A little bit of a get smart sort of day on the punt. A lot of seconds. In secret was great, but sort of kept the fire burning for a little bit. But I would have loved Fangirl's head just to be a little bit longer. Yeah,
I would have loved Le Creek to get up for J-Mac, and that would have mattered winning day. But we move on. Before we take a look at some of the main runners in the race, as always, a talking point is we get scratchings and they don't get replaced.
Yeah, look, it's a problem, isn't it, that we need to probably get fixed, particularly when there's such a push to get horses into the Melbourne Cup. Everybody wants a Cup runner. We've lost a point and a peon already, so hopefully there's none more and we can roll on to Tuesday and enjoy a really good race.
I think the way we should look at the race really is look at the overseas visitors up against our best locals, and we start with the overseas visitor that everyone is talking about, Deauville Legend. It's a short price favourite now. It's got the overseas form, it's got the profile, but is it too short to be this sort of price in a Melbourne Cup? Is it that good?
If you took the earlies, I think you'd be probably happy with the price that you took then. He's under the odds now, but I think it's probably by a process of elimination. There's been no locals that have thrown their hands up and said, well, we're in contention to win the Melbourne Cup. I'm a genuine chance to beat Deauville Legend. So with every qualifier race, I guess, or every lead-up race, there hasn't been a standout. Francesco Guardi's probably been in. He's not even in the race.
Not in the race, yeah.
So Deauville Legend has just continued to shorten by virtue of the fact that he's probably the best horse in the race, and there's nothing else from the locals that are genuinely standing out as a big contender to topple him.
Is there a question mark this horse, if we do get the rain that we're expecting, we get to a heavy track, 2 miles on a heavy, is there a question mark there? Because it's untried.
Yeah, well, he hasn't seen a wet track, but I think it's probably, again, not because they've dodged it, they just haven't seen a wet track with him when he's been scheduled to run in the UK. If pedigrees have anything to do with it, see the Stars progeny genuinely get through any ground, and his half-sister is a heavy track winner over a long distance in the UK. So there is some wet track form in the family. It's not with him specifically. I don't think we can be too critical of the horse for not having seen a wet track when it's not really anything of his doing.
A couple of overseas visitors we'll continue to look at without a fight. We'll get the 2 miles and we'll handle the track.
Yeah, he will. He'll get through soft ground, probably heavy ground as far as Australian conditions are concerned. His last run, he was staying on really strongly from probably the last 200 metres of his race. The race didn't set up well for him on that occasion. He'd put a few wins together before that. Look, he's probably in the mould of a Heartbreak City that we saw come out and nearly win the Cup a few years ago. A bit more of a handicap style horse, very progressive stayer. I think he's right in the race. William Buick has had some criticism, I guess, for his recent rides out here. It's a bit harsh. Yeah. He's on a horse that he knows from home. I think they're a really tough combination to beat in this race.
Gabe Waterhouse has Who Ya Mal, has a sort of profile that we've seen horses come from overseas. That lightly raced profile down the bottom of the weights has been okay.
Yeah, second in an Epsom Derby, that's usually pretty good form. Yeah. And he was really brave that day. Then he went and won a 2,800 metre race as he liked. The second horse went and won a listed race after that. So there was some depth to that form. He's met Deauville Legend before. Deauville Legend gave him weight on that occasion, as he does in the Melbourne Cup, and he wasn't able to beat Deauville Legend. So he's got a little bit of ground to make up there with the favourite. Anything
else from overseas you should worry about? Camora's big odds, but comes out of the Curragh Cup, which in the past has been good.
Yeah, he probably doesn't want a wet track. He's much more competent on top of the ground. You wouldn't think that an Irish horse, you'd think they'd be able to plough through the mud, but he is one that probably won't want this rain to stay away, I'd suggest.
All right, let's look at the locals, and let's start with Realm of Flowers, who gets a start. Now, lightweight down at 50 kilos, number 24. We often see something in the 20s in the placings in the Melbourne Cup. But all of a sudden is into single figures. So this surprises me. I mean, we know Realm of Flowers can stay, but is she good enough?
Well, I think people are banking on the forecast coming and probably to be the worst side of the rain and for it to be a really heavy track. That's what Realm of Flowers is going to need if she's going to win the Melbourne Cup. You look at the last mares to win the Cup, you're talking Maccabi Divas, Very Elegance, Ethereals. they were proper top-class mares. Realma Flowers isn't even in that conversation. She's not even in the waiting room for the conversation. So I think she's under the odds as well. I think it's recency factor. People are just moving towards her because she has recent wet track form.
You talk about mares. Montefili's a classy mare, but does she get the 2 miles?
Well,
I don't think she does.
She was running on at the end of a sit-sprint Caulfield Cup,
Yep.
where run-on horses were probably flattered a little bit in that regard. She does have a turn of foot. I have a doubt at her at 2 miles. Although her dam Banner Woo was a proper marathon horse over in the UK, I just don't know if Montefilia has that same trait.
Caulfield Cup, you mentioned, Gold Trip was a placing in the Caulfield Cup, then went to the Cox Plate. Now, we've always seen the Caulfield Cup in the past, in particular when the great man was training winners for the Melbourne Cup, Bart Cummings. It was always a good form race. Is it this year?
Well, I thought Gold Trip, I expected him to, watching that Caulfield Cup again, drag away a bit more from the likes of Knight's Order. He ambled up to them. He let down well like he was going to go and win the race. Durston, of course, got the better of him on the line out wide. But when you watch that last 100 metres and then through the line, Knight's Order's coming back on him on the line. Numerian's holding ground with him. I have a doubt on Gold Trip running out a strong 3,200, particularly with top weight. He will love the ground if the rain comes. It's a distance query for mine.
All right, there we have some of the main local chances. So this is the moment that we've all been waiting for. We've got people in the studio with the pens at the ready. We've got people upstairs, people at my ear saying, what's Shark going to tip for the Melbourne Cup? Please, your top 4.
Well, I'm with Deauville Legend, Matty. I think he's just the class act in the race. Yes, he's short, but you want to back the winner, don't you? And there's other ways.
No, I want to back the horse that runs.
There's other ways to bet in the race. You can take exactas and trifectas and everything else. So Deauville Legend on top. Deshuan's Sweet Junior, I think, is a really live roughie in the race. I think he'll run the trip. Wet or dry, it won't bother him. He's the forgotten horse. Without a fight, and Knight's Order round out my top 4.
I'm glad you mentioned Knight's Order because my top 4, I've got Deauville Legend and Knight's Order. I've got Deauville Legend on top, but I'm hoping this rain really comes and we get this wet track because Knight's Order, we know can get the 2 miles, won the Sydney Cup on a heavy track. Wide barrier, we know Knight's Order will go to the front and try and stack them up on the back and and then sit and sprint. So I've got Knight's Order as a genuine chance with Deauville Legend. So 8 and 3 there. Camorra, I'm hoping if the rain doesn't come, that Curragh Cup form is good. And I've thrown in Realma Flowers because you often get something at lightweights running in the top 4.
Absolutely. I think the one thing we can say about this Melbourne Cup, it'll be run at a genuine tempo with the likes of Interpretation wanting to go forward, Serpentine, who we saw run so well on Derby Day, and also Knight's Order. They're not going to be sitting there and waiting mid-race. I think they'll make it a test.
No, totally agree with you. What about, apart from the Cup, some best bets we should be concentrating on?
Let's have a look at race 8. Matty, Munhamek goes around there. It's the first...
That's Hutchie's horse.
It is Hutchie's horse, yeah. It was very good at Caulfield too last time. We'll get the mail. It got too far back at Caulfield and came running on really well on what was a really heavy track. I don't know if it'll be that heavy, but if it gets to a proper heavy track, we know it gets through it. So race 8, number 10, Munhamek. Race 9, number 10, Decent Rain. I think this horse...
It's an omen bet.
She has been set for this race, I reckon. And this is classic Kieran Maher, Dave Eustace lining up a race, John Allen in the saddle from a good gate. She was very nearly won over a shorter trip at Caulfield. I think she's ready for this, and she's probably my most confident bet of the day.
All right, Decent Rain there. I've got 2 bets, but they're short prices. The prices have been knocked off. Race 2, number 7, White Marlins, had the 4 starts with 4 wins, 2 in Australia. Beat Manzois, who came out and won the Derby on Saturday, and then beat Keats, who came out and won by 5 lengths on the Sunday. So the form is there for White Marlin to continue to be undefeated. And then Paddy Payne's horse, one of my favourites, race 4, number 12, Quang Tri. It won first up. It's got a good second up profile. It's got a good profile overall. Nothing fancy in the prices, but if you put them together, get around $4.50.
I like it. Got a couple from you early, a couple from me late, the cup in between and the meat and the sandwich. I think we're going to have a good day, Matty.
Mate, great to see you as always.
And you.
Thanks for joining us on Punters Inside Run. Good luck on the day. I hope you can find a winner. Subscribe below so you can continue to watch us, and we'll be back on Friday for the big meeting, Champions Day, at Flemington as the carnival finishes off.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.